Good afternoon. This is Beth from Fort McMurray.
Hi, Erin.
Hi, Lena. I just realized I'm like, you can't see me over there.
It's okay. I realize I'm very large, so we all have our challenges. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
We can.
Okay, awesome. I'll be right back. I just have to grab something. Hi, everyone. Just going to give just maybe one more minute before we start to see if a couple other people join us today. We'll see you in a moment. Before we start, the people that are already on the call, did everyone receive the, it's hard to really see, the outcome map outline in their emails? Hi, Katie. Yes, I'm seeing nods.
No. Erin, it's Mary Ellen with Fort McMurray. We haven't received ours.
Okay. Just going to email it to you right now so that you have it.
What do I do here? This is so
Okay,
exciting.
Mary Ellen, it should be in your mailbox very soon. Hello, welcome. Is that Fazia? If we don't have sound. Look, a couple people are having sound issues. Katie, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah. I'm actually at my house today, so you may see some animals walk by behind me. Don't be alarmed. They're supposed to be there. Okay.
No.
Looks like Arlie from Creative Manitoba is having some sound problems, so we're just gonna wait maybe a moment for her to come back. Everyone can make sure that your speakers are on, or if you're able to use some headphones or earbuds, that works as well. Fazia, can you hear me?
Now, yes. Can
Awesome.
you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Well, I want to start with a disclaimer.
What's that?
I want to start with an apology first that this is my first time joining an online meeting and using all these things. So please bear with me, everyone.
It's okay. We're all sort of new at this, I think, and you're doing well so far. We can see you, we can hear you. Yeah, welcome. If you're able, okay, never mind. I can see your full face now. For a moment, I could just see half your face, but now we can.
Okay, great.
Or all of your face.
You sure, or should I change? Is it better?
Yeah, there you go. We can see you.
Perfect.
And Arlie, are you able to hear now?
Yeah.
Not.
If need be, there is that call-in number. It's Zoom. It's from Zoom. I think it is a US-based phone number if need be.
Arlie, can you nod if you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Awesome. And Carrie Lynn, you're on the line. Can you, without video?
Yes, I can hear. Thanks.
Okay. And then, is that Brenda as well without video? I think Brenda's muted. So Brenda, if you're trying to respond, you might be muted. Okay, I'm just gonna send a message to Brenda.
Hi, puppy.
Like, I trained them to be perfectly quiet, and this is when they start. Okay. Okay, 1 second. The joys of doing this at home. And it looks like Brenda's having trouble too. So I'm gonna give her the phone in numbers.
And just a pro tip for anyone that's new to using Zoom this time, if you hover over the upper right-hand corner screen, you can change the views to gallery view and see everybody's faces.
Okay, I've sent the call-in numbers to Brenda. I have her on chat, so she's able to see that at least. Okay. It looks like we've lost Brenda. I'm assuming she's gonna try to phone back in or reconnect, but maybe let's get started before we lose too much more time. So welcome everyone to this month's gathering. We may have had Brenda rejoin. Welcome Brenda, can you hear me? Okay, looks like we've lost, I'm not able to even chat with her right now. So we'll just get started. So yeah, welcome to our community of practice for December. Thank you for your patience, flexibility in rescheduling this session from a couple weeks ago. I am sitting in snowy Calgary where it currently feels like -30, literally. So I'm spending some time in my nice warm house today. I've shared today's agenda with you via Google Docs a couple different times. Just by either chiming in or raising your hand, is everyone able to see that agenda? Has everyone received that agenda from me? Yeah? Okay. Carrie Lynn, you have the agenda?
Yes, thanks.
Perfect. Okay. So if you've read the agenda, as you would have seen, is today's, the plan for today is to welcome our new participants, hear a bit from them, review the commitments from last time, see sort of how those went for people. We're going to look at an activity called building an outcome map, talk a bit about policy in our spaces, do some workshopping around issues or activities people might be wanting help from this peer group with. And then we'll wrap up again with the stating of commitments. And this meeting will continue to be a bit more structured in terms of myself and NCN having kind of set the agenda, but we'll also, as we move forward, maybe consider some ways that we can incorporate input or feedback into sort of what some of our next steps are as a group. So yeah, we do have some regrets today. And so Alex from the Institute for Community Prosperity here in Calgary had another meeting. I also heard from Jennifer at Heartwood House, whose daughter actually had a mild concussion, it sounds like, and so she was unfortunately unable to make it as well. So, but before going any further, I want to acknowledge that we do have some new people on the call. So we've got Arlie from ACI Manitoba in Winnipeg, and we have Fazia on her first ever web call from
Other than Skype.
Family and Children's Services of the Waterloo region, and you're in Kitchener, right?
Yes.
Okay, so welcome. And so last time when we first did our introductions, people shared a few things about themselves and about their centers. So I thought we could start just with our two new people to hear some of those same things from you. And so what people shared last time was your name, your center's name, and where you're located, your position in the organization, and how long you've been there, number of tenants, and kind of your mission as well as any fun facts that you want to share with us. I did include those points in an email to you, but if you want me to repeat any of them, I can do that. It's a lot of information. But Arlie, would you like to start by sharing?
Sure. Hey, I'm Arlie Ashcroft. I'm the facility manager at ACI Manitoba. That's Art and Cultural Industries Association of Manitoba. We are located in the heart of Winnipeg's Exchange District in Winnipeg, Manitoba. What else? I am the facility manager here. The center has been around ACI Manitoba, I believe, for about 9 or 10 years. I joined last February, so I've been here not quite a year yet. And the mission of the center actually is to strengthen, represent, and connect artists with community. And we provide a lot of, well, our main focus is to provide support networks for artists and for arts organizations, like all of those background things that artists don't think they might need when they're starting out in their art careers. Everything from learning copyright laws, we hook them up with mentors and coaches and do workshops. And that's the main focus, actually, of our organization. Now, what I do here is we have 2 main classrooms, a large classroom, a small classroom, and a boardroom that we rent out to different tenants. Plus, we also have permanent tenants, and we have hot desks and office space that is for rent. Currently, we have 11 permanent tenants. We have 4 office spaces that are available, and then we have 3 hot desks that are available on a rotating basis. Yeah, and that essentially that's us in a nutshell, and what we do. Oh, and Space Finder. We also are the Space Finder Manitoba leaders, I guess. So our big focus right now is trying to recruit and sign up about 100 members to do Space Finder Manitoba. And you guys know what Space Finder is? Yeah? Yes?
Mm.
No?
Quick step.
Okay, quick recap. Space Finder Manitoba is like Airbnb for people looking for creative spaces and for creative people looking for spaces there, for like artists looking for studios or performance venues, or people like us who have these large classrooms that we are looking to rent out. So it's a free thing to sign up with. There is Space Finder Calgary, I believe. There's Space Finder Hamilton. There's Space Finder Toronto, New York. It's funded by Fractured Atlas out of New York, who've created the software, and Arts Build Ontario. And then we have, it's like, you can see this?
Awesome.
Excuse me. I have a terrible cold. I just got back from Standing Rock.
Well, welcome back. It's big.
Thanks. Excuse me. So yeah, and that's another thing we're doing. We're trying to focus on is getting tenants signed up. I'm gonna cry. Excuse me. All right, that's it.
All right, drink some water. Thank you. Yeah, we do have Space Finder in Calgary as well, and so maybe we can even include the link to some of that information in the minutes for this when we send them out. Sharing. Sorry, you're so sick. Oh.
Sorry.
I understand.
And
And then welcome. To share a bit about yourself and about your center.
Sure. So my name is Fazia Mazhar. Center's name is the Family Center, which is the community space for family and children services Waterloo region. And in case you're confused about why am I based at Kitchener and now I'm talking about Waterloo region, well, Kitchener is a city in the region of Waterloo, and I do have someone who I work closely with as part of this call, Carrie Lynn, in Cambridge. So we both are part of the region of Waterloo. So Family Center is the community space for family and children services of Waterloo region. And at some point we can talk more about why there was a need for a place like Family Center for an organization like Family and Children Services of Waterloo region. But for now, just trying to focus on the questions that you sent. So my position with the organization is I'm the Family Center coordinator. And I coordinate the Family Center with one more staff person, which is the Family Center admin. So it's a 2-person staff team. It's a 60,000 square feet building. 2 floors, and we have a gymnasium and quite a few meeting rooms of different sizes, and art and music room, a lot of different multi-purpose rooms, and 15 tenants, or we like to call them our partners. So 15 partners currently in the center in-house. When the center was formed not long ago, the quiet opening was, as I understand, it was in 2011, and then the formal opening was in 2012. So about 5 years now. How long I have worked here? I started in, I believe, May of 2015. So a year and a half or so in this position. I already talked about number of tenants and then the mission of the center, which is the most interesting probably piece. The mission is strengthening families through a community of collaboration, and this community of collaboration is like the cornerstone in everything that we do. What we say is that we try to build this community of collaboration intentionally, and there are 4 ways that we build the community of collaboration. The first one is by in-house partnerships or our tenants. So we have 15, as I said before. Then we have community partnerships. So there are partnerships with organizations like YMCA or Strong Start, and they come here and they run their programs out of our facility. And we have community rentals. We have space available for other community groups and organizations to rent for meetings, trainings, sports programs, and a lot of other things on a very affordable rate. And the 4th way that we build community of collaboration, community of interest, is through special projects. And that kind of like incorporate my answer for your last question, the fun fact about about the center. So currently we have 3 projects at the Family Center. The first one is an employment support program for youth in care with through a partnership with Ray of Hope, which is a local organization. And then the second project is Resilience Project, which is building resiliency in children and families. And now we are entering the second phase of this project where we're incorporating building resiliency in the community organizations as well. But the third project, which is the Community Hub project, is the most interesting fact about our about the center here. So the Communities Hub is the hub within the Family Center hub. Family Center is a hub, and then we have Community Hub, which is modeled after the incubator model in the tech sector, which Waterloo region is pretty well known about. So we have this incubator, which includes both the space as well as mentorship, as well as other support for a small not-for-profit, small emerging not-for-profit groups and organizations. So a majority of our partners are actually our partners through the Community Hub program. And I think this is pretty neat that we have this space and we are able to provide support to very, very, really emerging organizations, not-for-profit groups in the community.
Awesome. Thank you. Excellent overview. Thank you. Yeah, thank you to both of you for sharing. Again, welcome. And then just for the other people that are on the call, we won't have you go through and introduce yourselves again, but maybe just give a little wave when I say your name so that people know who you are. So looks like we're actually missing Yvette from Egg and Court Community Services, but we have Mary Ellen, and it looks like, and friends and group colleagues from United Way, Fort McMurray, the Red Pole Center. The 2 of you who aren't Mary Ellen, do you want to just introduce yourselves just by name so we can hear your names?
My name is Beth McClaws, and I'm the Fire Recovery Projects Coordinator for the United
Awesome.
Way.
Welcome.
My name is Catalina Rivera, and I'm the Finance Coordinator.
Okay, thank you for joining us today. And then we have Jody from Saskatoon Community Service Village. Welcome. Carrie Lynn, without video, from Langs in Cambridge. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. And then Brenda, do we have you here yet? You look like you're on the call, just without video. And you're also muted, so this, let's try. Brenda, can you hear me now? No. All right. I'm also still having trouble chatting with Brenda, so she might be having the same connection problems I had the last time we had this call. All right, so I'm just going to mute Brenda. So now we're going to move to reviewing the commitments that you each made at the end of the last call. So this is an opportunity to provide the group with an update. How did it go? Were there challenges? Were there learnings? Just a brief recap of sort of where you're at with your commitments from last month. If this is your first call, maybe just quickly share one opportunity or one challenge that you're currently experiencing in your space. So how about we start with Jody? Oops, I'm just gonna.
There we go.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, remind me again. I'm starting about my commitment that I made last time, Erin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I committed to sharing what our agency has, our memorandum of understanding amongst our 6 agencies. So here at the Village, we're in our 15th year of operation. And we've had the same 6 agencies since inception that actually came together to create the Village. And at that time, the 6 agencies signed a memorandum of understanding before they even moved into the space about what best case scenario could be. And after our, I guess, probably 13th year, we've had some succession amongst our leadership. And so we decided to review the MOU and to really take a look at what came to fruition and what didn't. Some things were tried and some things just didn't work. So we are in the process of just finalizing our new memorandum of understanding. And so twice a month, the executive directors of our 6 agencies come together for a 2-hour-long meeting. And we also commit to 2 full days a year. We have an offsite retreat. And so for those of you who didn't meet me on the last call, our agencies include the YWCA of Saskatoon, the United Way of Saskatoon and area, a crisis intervention service, our sexual assault and information center, Family Service Saskatoon, and Catholic Family Services. So quite large organizations here in Saskatoon, all human service agencies. So things that are in our MOU are our agreement around meetings, our agreement to use what we call principles of peaceful community relations. So it's a nicer way of saying conflict resolution principles. And so we have a nice document about that. Some of the ways that we're going to work collaboratively, we've committed to some client services and programming, some collaboration around administration, management, and human resources, and around volunteer and community initiatives. And I can share this document. I actually just forgot to send it to Erin in advance. So those are just some of the things that we have actually written down and that our leaders have committed to that has sort of helped us stay on track. This fall has been challenging for agencies. Lots of things happening here in Saskatchewan. Our economy is decreasing. We're in a deficit, and so of course our community-based organizations are being hit hard with that. Also with some of the changes around funding from United Way, no longer supporting just operations costs, but looking at more program specific. So some of our agencies are having to deal with some of that. So there has been some layoffs. Some programs have had to be discontinued, and so it's been a tough fall for our agencies and our leadership here.
Absolutely. Yeah, it probably resonates with a lot of people. It's similar in Alberta anyway, as well. Yeah, and if you could share that document, that would be great. I guess it also ties into that we have that member roster that I keep mentioning in emails. And so just whenever people have a chance to go in and kind of fill out the rest of their information, a lot of you have already. But we can then also, if there's things to share, anyone can share to the rest of the group as we go as well. So yeah, thank you for sharing. And I want to move on to Alex, who's not actually on the call, but I actually met up with Alex yesterday because she's in Calgary, and she just wanted to share that she'd committed to convening like a community conversation of interested folks in the development of their shared space that they're working on, and it just got postponed to the new year. So that was her update. She'll be continuing to work on that before the next call. How about Mary Ellen and the rest of the group?
So I had committed to talking about our monthly flock meetings,
Right.
which is when all our tenants get together once a month, and those are scheduled. We try to keep them regular so people can put them in their calendar and make it a priority. And it is an expectation that if not all the tenants, at least one representative from their organization be at each flock meeting. The flock meetings vary. There are some that have a set agenda where we ask a tenant to take the lead on it and they can choose their topic of discussion. It usually will go around what they actually do. When we first opened up and had a lot of new organizations, it was just an opportunity for people to know what their organization actually was about, what their vision was, and what they wanted to get out of being a tenant at the Red Bull Center. So we stick to a lot of that. There's a round table. It's very informal meeting. What we found when we first started these over the last 7 years is that a few of these organizations that might not have never connected or collaborated on a project began to make those connections simply because they were put into a room in an informal setting, started talking about what they were doing, and someone else went, wow, you know, we have some money available for this and we're looking for a partner. You guys are great. And one of the successes was one of our senior advocate agencies, St. Aidan's, with the Art Council. Completely never thought they would ever collaborate on a project together, and ended up doing something that was a huge success. And because of their success, we've actually had more people interested and aware of the Red Pole Center and aware of the agencies that are living here and some of the United Way funded agencies. So it turned into a win-win across the board, just because they started at this center and then at the flock meetings especially.
Amazing. I love the word flock meeting too. I brought it to my own shared space and I want to start using that terminology there as well. So thank you for sharing that. It's an awesome way to say it. I can share my commitment was to work on my technology issues, and so far so good. So I don't want to jinx anything, but and the dogs have stopped barking, so things are going smoothly so far. How about Carrie Lynn?
Hi, my commitment was to look at people's websites, and I did look at a couple of sites. And I also reached out, I think, Erin, to you as well. I'm going to be in Calgary in a couple weeks and could potentially come and see your site. Oh. Flavia and I have actually been very, very busy with a hub evaluation. So I will say that I'm leaving some of the websites to look at until the Christmas holidays.
I think that's quite all right. Yeah, it might be nice to hear at some point more about some of the evaluation work that you've been working on. It's a kind of a common theme amongst centers. So if you sent me an email already to connect when you're in Calgary, I actually didn't receive it. So sorry if you've already reached out about that, but yeah, we'll make some plans for sure. That would be wonderful. And good luck with the rest of the evaluation. How about, okay, who do we have? It's Brenda. Brenda, can you hear me now? No, okay. Brenda may or may not be able to hear us. Maybe she just can't respond. And Brenda, if you can hear me, I'm trying to connect with you in the chat too. So if that's popping up, maybe we can connect through there as well. Okay, so in terms of Arlie and Fazia, so you weren't with us last time, but maybe just sharing one challenge or one opportunity that you're experiencing in your space right now.
I guess the biggest challenge is getting more permanent tenants. Our tenants are usually smaller businesses. They aren't the large organizations. And oftentimes they are individuals who are, for instance, a writer who might need an office space, or an artist who needs to work on their websites, or web designers, IT people. And that's one of our biggest challenges actually right now, is just getting permanent tenants to commit to a long haul, like to a year contract or something, as opposed to just in for a week or in for a few days.
We'll have, excuse me, an opportunity a bit later on to do some workshopping of some issues that people are having. So maybe that's something that could be brought up then as well. So yeah, thank you. Fazia.
So I guess we have the great opportunity that we have right now, and I just wanted to stay away for a second from it because it would require a little bit of more time to explain.
Yeah.
But then I decided to move forward with this anyway. So I talked about the community hub earlier and having all these smaller organizations as our partners. So last year, we were able to do a collective strategic planning meeting with all the organizations, kind of like evaluating their experience of living at the family center, what's happening, what are the goals, what are the next steps for the community hub collectively. So not for the individual organization, but for the community hub space collectively. And based on the priorities that came out of that strategic planning process, we've been able to make some progress. So the one progress was this idea that came out from that meeting about launching pads. So again, this is a term from the tech sector. So it's like, there are organizations who were part of the incubator environment for some time. Now they're ready to launch to the real world, but they might still need some pads, a transitional support. So there are 2 organizations in our community hub who have now become individual tenants. So they're not in the shared space anymore. And that's been really great. And then the other bigger piece was, how do we work together on projects, and especially the project within, like at the family center. So 2 years ago, Family and Children's Services received funding from Holman Foundation here to run resilience, child and youth resilience project. Basically, the idea was building resiliency in children and, of course, in families through equal opportunities for programming. So access to art and music program, a lot of other things. So we're at the end of our 2 years project, but the full year this year, we worked with the partners to take it to the next level, and especially our community hub partners. So we have just been approved for a collective grant of just over $1.5 million by Holman Foundation over the next 4 years. And a big part of that grant is going to be for our partner or community hub partner organizations to build sustainability for them, but also to help build resiliency in children and families in our community. So I think this is a great opportunity. It's scary a little bit as well. I'm the project coordinator, so it's huge. But oh my God, it's been so positive. It's been really, really great. So very happy about that.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on all that work. I have heard from Brenda through the chat. Ooh, okay, one second. What does she say? Brenda has shared in terms of her commitment. So they're starting to develop their RFP process to select tenants, and she'd be interested to hear what other people have on their application for some key learnings. So yeah, we can set up a process to sort of share some of that information either through email or maybe even later on in this call. So thank you for sharing, Brenda. I'm glad you're able to participate, at least do access. Great. Okay, I think that's everyone. Katie, did you have a commitment from last time? I can't remember. I don't actually know if you're still there.
Nope, no commitment.
Okay.
I had to move my laptop to take notes, so the shot of my head would be very awkward. So that's why my video's off.
I appreciate it. Also, I just wanted to touch base about the usage of the Google Docs. Has everyone been able to access the Google Docs that I have been sending out? Has anyone not been able to access those? Or are there any concerns that people are having? Okay. I was thinking of creating a shared Google folder and then just compiling everything so far in that and sharing the entire folder with you. Is there anyone for whom that wouldn't work? You're not able to access for whatever reason, or should we kind of keep going forward for now with the shared Google doc and folders? Okay, I'm not hearing any resistance. So we'll stick with that approach for now and can kind of touch base as we go. The last time that we ran out of time to talk about one key topic, and that was onboarding processes. And so there was an opportunity to share some of the information through our last agenda's Google Doc. And you can still continue to share. It's not like it was a one-time thing. Feel free to go in there and continue to share. But thank you to those who have participated. There was definitely some great learnings and sharing around onboarding processes. Things like member handbooks and tours and regularly scheduled orientations, the flock meetings, through Red Poll, having orientations both regularly scheduled but also on an as-needed basis. Kind of that issue of orienting both like member groups and then the individuals within the member groups kind of in an ongoing way was presented. And that's from my own personal experience community-wise, it's definitely something that we need to be working on. So anyway, I personally got a lot out of reading your comments. And so if you haven't yet been able to go in and read some of what other people shared, I would encourage you to do so. And between meetings, we can maybe continue to set up opportunities to share online as people kind of have the capacity to do so. So thank you again for that. So I'm going to move into today's main topic, which is about policy and about aligning your policies with your missions or your broader goals. And so like the role that we really end up playing as shared space managers is that of kind of backbone support or like infrastructure. We're infrastructure organizations. And this can be interesting, exciting, probably frustrating at times, a frustrating place to work in. We're often at least a couple layers removed from the on-the-ground work of our members. It can be a bit more difficult on a day-to-day basis to really see how our work is contributing to maybe broader needle changes or how our role is contributing to some of the impacts that our members are attempting to have. And you know, it can be hard for our families to explain what the work is that we're doing. I know that's something that I encourage or I encounter a lot from my family is like, you work in space, what does that mean? So there's kind of all this stuff that kind of comes up. But our role is really about providing a resource, and that resource is space, literally and figuratively. And as well as other backbone supports and services. And this is hopefully, you know, increasing the capacity of individuals and groups we work with to sort of have a greater impact out there in the world. So if managing shared resources is our thing, is what we do, and so is relationship management. We should make that clear as well. It's space and it's relationships. And as we talked about last time, with this comes managing our expectations. But because of all of this, policies become really, really necessary to our jobs. And so policies, as you probably all well know, can influence how we interact with our members. They can influence how we interact kind of with each other or how our members interact with each other. They can influence how collaboration takes place in the space. They serve as the filter through which people can see us as either aiding or being a barrier to the larger mission. They also play a role in relationship building, like are you seen as making decisions on a whim, or kind of are you making decisions based on, you know, giving people that you have the stronger relationships with more of a special treatment than others, or are you treating everyone equally? It also has a role in like succession planning. So are some of the successes that you're achieving in terms of effective ways of doing things? Are they going to be maintained once you're gone, or is everything sort of contained in your head, and when you leave, is it leaving with you? So policy clearly plays an important role in our work. And we'll get to hear a bit about where you're at with policy development in a little bit. But first, before we do that, it can be helpful to better understand how the shared resources that you offer really connect to your broader missions, the broader goals of your shared space. And so I'm going to just share a tool that NCN has used as part of their Energize trainings. It's called an outcome map. And so there's also a kind of a very specific evaluation approach out there called outcome mapping. So not to be confused with that, this is also an outcome map, and it can be used in evaluation work as well, but it's a little bit different than some other uses of the word outcome mapping. This tool has some similarities to like a logic model or a theory of change. Maybe you've worked with those tools before. Katie, if you're still on the call, can you just remind me where that tool originally came from?
Yeah, absolutely. So I found it through the Annie E. Casey Foundation and some of their work with collective impact and family service organizations. Particularly, they work with a lot of organizations dealing with child abuse. And so this was a tool that I came across as they were trying to figure out how to explain some of the challenges around coalition work. And how to explain that structure and the impact that it makes.
Awesome, thank you. And again, as I showed at the beginning of this call when we were first getting on, I sent you, I don't know if you can see this, I sent you this document via email. Is there anyone who hasn't received the outcome map template from me? Okay, it looks like you're all good to go. Okay, so we're going to, if you have it all right in front of you, if you could have it in front of you, that would be excellent. Not yet, good, I can see yours early. So we're just gonna take a few moments to consider this tool. So if you look at it and you start from the bottom of the page, so bottom, that's where you fill out your centers, your goal, kind of like the overall goal that you're working to. In a very broad sense usually. So that's the bottom of the sheet. At the top of the sheet, you move all the way up, you'll see a space for resources. And there we're looking at both kind of physical assets, the physical space, as well as the relationships and the people, like the people resources that you have at your disposal. Below the resources is where you start to sort of flesh out the strategies and the tactics or activities that make up your strategies as a space. And as you start to go further down, you start to fill in the middle with what are called so what statements. So, you know, I'm doing this strategy or this activity so that I can achieve the shorter term outcome. I'm doing that so that I can achieve this medium term outcome. I'm doing this so that I can achieve a longer term outcome. So you're kind of gradually funneling out more broadly and looking at a larger time frame as you go. It's again similar to a logic model. If I do this, then I hope to achieve this. If I do this, then I achieve this. And it's really about like, so what, like why are we doing the things that we're doing? And how does it kind of link to our broader goal? So what is the kind of the logical progression between our activities on the one hand, our outcomes, and then our longer term goal? So I thought we could take a few minutes to kind of individually work with that tool and then do a bit of sharing. Recognizing that we don't have a ton of time, so you're not going to have it perfectly fleshed out, but just so that you're able to kind of individually work with that. In the agenda, I have included an example. I'm just going to I've lost my agenda, unfortunately. Just give me 1 second. So if you scroll down through the agenda, there's actually an example in this part of the activity. So one example is from another group. And so they've linked, like a strategy is that we provide technical assistance so that providers increase their knowledge about best practices, so that providers provide high quality programs, so that programs are more likely to result in positive outcomes, so that children are less likely to be abused, so that all children are healthy and safe. So you can sort of see this gradual funneling out from the more specific to the more general. And so I'm gonna maybe give you 5 minutes to kind of work individually on that tool as it might apply to your space and your work within the space. And then we can kind of go from there. Is that, how is that sitting with people? Is that making sense? Are there questions? Okay.
So can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
So with 5 minutes and short time on the agenda, I was wondering what is the expected outcome of this activity for our group? So once we have done it, what would we do with the result?
In terms of the very specific aspects of it, it's something that maybe you can take away individually and, you know, use in your space. But in terms of this group call, I think it's more about just getting us thinking about the connections between sort of some of the more specific work that we're doing around providing shared resources, some of our roles as building managers, and how that connects to our larger missions as organizations. So it's basically just getting us in that mindset of connecting the more specific to a broader outcome or goal. And so
is it
sort of in that headspace?
Is it fair to say it's more of a personal reflection kind of activity at this point?
Yeah, personal reflection and also sort of setting us up for the next part of the agenda. So,
okay.
Yeah. And I know 5 minutes is short. This group loves to share information, which I love, but then I'm realizing I'm having trouble keeping track of time. So I'm giving you a shorter period of time than I'd planned. So 5 minutes, and then we'll reconvene. Oh, my dog. Oh,
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, it's Yvette.
Hi, Yvette. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm late, but just doing a few things at this end.
Oh, hi, Doug. Yeah, so we're just wrapping up maybe in the last minute or so of an activity, and then we're going to come back together to share. So you'll get to hear
okay.
what we've been working on. Yeah. And then we'll be moving into a conversation that I think we'll be able to jump right into. So yeah, no worries.
Okay. So what did I miss? Sorry.
We've just done some sharing. We've welcomed some of the new participants. We've gone over commitments from last time. And then I introduced a tool called an outcome map. And so I can send you all that afterwards as well.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay, so we'll start to come back together here. So as a kind of first question, how was that activity for people? Was it easy? Was it hard? Useful? Got a lot of muted microphones. Oh, it looks like Jody is unmuted.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a useful tool. Just sort of made me reflect a bit on our mission and our vision, and our we're going through a strat plan right now here at the village. So a lot of this, we've gone through some of these exercises recently, but just to make it more specific to the service that we provide here, I guess. Were you wanting us to go through what we did, or no?
That's fine. No, it's just more of a general, how did it go? Have others used or are currently using similar tools, or have you been through sort of a similar process in your own organization with thinking through those connections between more specific tactics and then the larger missions or goals? I've got some feedback from you, Yvette, so I'm actually just going to mute you. Okay. Does anyone else want to share about how that activity went for them?
Hi, Erin, it's Mary Ellen.
Hello.
Okay, so we found it interesting, a little bit tough. Once we started thinking about it, we got there, but we don't have a lot of policies in place. A lot of it is expectations versus and practices that when we do our onboarding and when we do our meetings, we remind people of. It becomes part of their contract or their lease agreement. So we didn't have that. And because we really only support or can have administrative services, no programming or agencies, it is more around strengthening in terms of our goal is really trying to incubate these organizations and successfully move them back into the community or into other parts of the community outside of the center with that capacity to strengthen other organizations or to strengthen the entire social profit sector of Fort McMurray.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But it sounds like as a reflective tool, it's still.
Yeah, it was really good as a bit of a reflective tool. And I think we're going through some, United Way is going through some transitions right now. And as that lead tenant taking us into that next step of making sure that the ED who just left, who a lot of the stuff was in her brain and is in mine, that, you know, a year or 2 or 5 years from now, we don't lose that, like you said in here, that we start getting those, whether they be policies or the best practices for our tenants, all into place, or at least written, and why we have those, so that we can start sharing them.
Thank you. That's succession planning is a huge piece of it. This is very strange. I'm sorry about this distraction in the background. These dogs are just like, they keep all day, and he just starts playing with himself and like running around the house all of a sudden. So thank you for sharing. A big reason for doing this or presenting this tool at this point is just being reminded that it's important to always take a minute with your larger goals or your mission, and reminding yourselves of what those are before enacting or developing new policies and practices. And so it's really about alignment with your policies and then your broader mission. And Katie gives a really good example of how, you know, for instance, a sustainability hub should maybe think twice about a policy that says we will only stock the kitchen with disposable plates. Like, there can be a lot of considerations in terms of that policy and how it might connect with a broader goal. So again, sort of to try to get us a bit in that mindset. But we're going to move now into kind of more specifically about policy development. And so focusing on the resources end of your template. So that's the section at the top of your template. These are the things that, you know, you have to share as a space. And we can think of policies as the guidelines that govern and influence these resources, and kind of how they get shared. And documenting, as we've said already, these guidelines is important. So again, they don't just live with one person in one person's head, especially as we move on. So I just want to get a feel of where people are at in terms of their own policy development. We've heard a little bit about this from Red Pole Center, but in terms of the other people on the call, maybe just by a show of hands, or maybe participating through the chat if I'm unable to see you. So by show of hands, who on the call has virtually everything written down and has standard procedures in place? So you have almost everything written down and you have standard procedures in place that you're following as an organization. Is there anyone on the call who feels like they're in that position? Now, I work in a shared space. We certainly are not in that position either. Anyone who can't raise their hand want to chime in differently, or is it fair to say that, you know, no one's really in that position? Okay. How about that you have developed many policies, but you still have a ways to go? So Jody, Arlie, okay. There's a couple people. Anyone else?
I think one thing with our policies is that I'm running into this actually exactly right now, is that I've started with, I'm sort of filling somebody else's shoes. They didn't have a lot of policies, so it's always evolving. And it's kind of challenging to keep up with everything, with all the different circumstances, especially in a rotating tenant organization, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think often something happens, we don't have a policy, that we realize we need to have a policy,
yeah,
which is like, okay, like it's good that it's leading to some development, but in that moment when you don't have the policy, it feels kind of bad that you don't have a way to deal with it. So absolutely. Mary Lynn says that for the hub, they have key procedures and procedure manuals, but not policies that are separate from their organization's policies. So, and rentals and room rentals covered in their organizational policies. I hope I didn't misrepresent that, Carrie Lynn. But Carrie Lynn chimed in through chat. How about you have, you know, maybe some policies, but most of it's in your head? Sounds like maybe, Arlie, you're in a bit of that situation. Yeah, it seems to be a bit maybe of the space that we're in this group. How about you have no policies, you have not started developing policy, it's not really where you're at. Okay, so it sounds kind of like people are, kind of some policies, a ways to go, maybe recognize the importance of policies for a lot of different reasons, maybe haven't been able to get fully there for capacity or other issues. And so, and again, kind of putting on my community-wise hat for a moment, we're in a position where we very much believe in policy, and we try very hard to develop policy, and we have some policy, but it's definitely often in a reactive way. And a lot of that has to do with capacity, unfortunately, but it's always an evolving process and something that we should always be mindful with or of. And Yvette says that they have written policies that are pretty well defined in Oregon court. Yvette, do you want to share a bit about kind of some of how your policy development has taken place and sort of what that process has been like in your center? Maybe we've lost.
Yeah.
Oh, Yvette, I think you were.
Yeah, hi.
Okay,
Are you hearing me?
You were just muted.
Yeah, hi. No, so I was saying that I wasn't here from the inception of the development of those policies, but I think between United Way, Hub Partners, residents, that's how they were developed. I could do some more finding out in terms of how that was done, but since I've only been here for roughly about a year now, so I haven't been here from the inception, so I'm not quite sure how the whole development process happened.
No, that's perfectly fine. And I think it's just safe to say that it's probably been a long process, and a lot of people have been involved, and there's been some missteps along the way, for sure.
Yeah.
So maybe,
Erin, can I share something?
Yeah, for sure.
So the village itself we're in our 15th year, and so we have a lot of policies, but actually I feel like the pendulum should be shifting the other way. In some other work I'm involved with for another nonprofit, it's looking at having a very broad policy, and then it's really the procedure that should be ever evolving. So once the organization or the board sets the policy, it's really the procedure that should be evolving, and not having a 3-inch binder of policies that no one's going to look at. So really just being selective about the policies versus procedures is something that I've been doing some work in for a board, a separate nonprofit board that I'm on, and we've had lots of success with that. The SARC Saskatchewan that's here, who works with folks with intellectual disabilities, they're doing so much work around policies and procedures for nonprofits, and so we've been working with them to sort of evolve our traditional thinking of policy, and so there's been some good work around that.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think there's often trying to find that balance between not like wanting to be flexible and open and responsive, and then but also not sort of have this special treatment approach, and sort of especially with the people maybe you're most connected with, or your members that you have the strongest relationships with. Like, you don't want to just only replicate those relationships and again give some special treatment, but you also don't want to be completely rigid. And so I think finding that balance between openness and responsiveness, and then also succession planning, continuity, some consistency is often a bit of a tension, but it sounds like this approach is maybe one way to get around some of that. If you have any resources to share around any of that, that would be wonderful. I'll send out a reminder email after this about all the things that maybe people have promised to share out of this call. How about in terms of, again, going back to the resources that we have to share within our shared spaces, both in terms of physical infrastructure and then sort of the resources that relationships and people bring. What do people find are some of their biggest challenges in terms of how those resources get shared. Like, what are some issues that come up for people in their spaces? And maybe we can just do like a popcorn approach. So anyone who wants to share can just speak up. So challenges around how resources get shared in your spaces.
Okay, so I can be the first one.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So we have an online booking system, space booking system, and the online booking system is open to our partners as well as our external partners, which are community organizations in the community, trying to book the space for meetings or trainings and stuff like that. So basically, most of the time it's first come, first serve. So if you're there first, you can book it and it's yours. So if you are good with making sure that you go in and you even do tentative bookings and stuff like that, that you can get away with a lot more availability than others who may want to wait a little bit and who may not want to hold other people, like, by booking tentatively and stuff like that. So that's a little bit of challenge. And one thing that makes it more difficult on our side is it's a shared space, and we have to use it for the agency and partners and everyone else. So sometimes, a lot of times, you have to go back to the partners and kind of like have this mediator role. Can you use this room or this space? Is it possible because there is another group that needs the space? And that's challenging. It's not a great situation to be in.
And do you have policy developed around any of that, or have you found it useful to have policy in those situations?
Yeah, we have. So I kept quiet during the policy question because, believe it or not, we only have 5 policies so far. So in 5 years, 5 policies, not so bad.
All right.
Room rentals is one of the policies. So basically, the shared space takes precedence. So this idea that we're in the shared space, so we're going to live like a family, it's not necessarily a policy, but it's more the culture. So we'll see what's needed by someone else and we will be flexible, right? So that helps a lot. And then the other policy is, of course, online booking. So you just go and book online with the understanding that you might be approached and asked for some flexibility in where you book.
Do you charge for your spaces? Or
for our partners,
yeah,
most of the time it's completely free. It's either covered by a very small grant or it's part of our in-kind support to our partners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yvette, were you going to chime in there? Oh, your box just lit up. Oh. No, it's okay. I thought maybe you were just going to say something. Jody?
Yes, so here at the village, we were running into problems with maybe 1 or 2 agencies who were really on the ball and would always book their space, leaving others out in the cold. Also here in the village, our space is a value added to all of our partners. We do rent out our rooms at a very reasonable rate to other nonprofits or community groups here in Saskatoon. But what we did develop is a bit of a process or a lottery around our booking space. So for instance, we have an online system. So right now, our agencies can book up to the end of March, but then we have it stopped online. So in January, all of our 6 agencies will put in their regular bookings. So because our agencies are human service, we have a lot of ongoing groups or sessions that happen. So in January, each of our 6 agencies will hand in a stack of their preferred bookings, and they'll have them prioritized. Then our admin assistant pulls a name from a hat. So say it's Family Service Saskatoon. She starts with that agency and she'll go through and book everyone's first and second choices. Then after that, she'll come back and book everyone's third and fourth choices, 5th and 6th, and so on, so that there's a bit of a fairness. Then once our partner agencies have their bookings in, then we open it up. So like mid-January, we'll open it up for other community groups. And then after that, it's on a first come, first serve if there's just sort of one-offs if people need a meeting space. And so we've had a lot of success with that process. So if anyone's interested in that, I could definitely share, I could share that.
Awesome. It sounds like a very comprehensive approach. And has it been like a smooth process, or has there been like resistance or pushback?
Well, we actually invited all 6 of our agencies to come to the table. And so this is something that everybody had input on and agreed on. And so we have some other things, like we have 2 very large group rooms. So agencies can't have, 3 rooms booked on the same night if there's other requests. Even if it's their first and second, sort of booking. We do have 1 space where it just has couches, and so that is a preferred space for, say, support group type meetings versus a boardroom meeting. So we have some other parameters too, but everyone's really bought into it. Yeah.
Wonderful situation to be in. Yeah, and sharing that would be great as well. How about things like sort of like tenant selection, or maybe which groups you partner with, so some of that stuff. Are there any success stories or challenges that people have experienced around sort of developing approaches or policies around some of that, like partnership, collaboration, or like tenant selection type stuff?
I can start.
Sure.
So I'd say I inherited a place where intentionally the rule was almost no rule or minimal rules for the longest time possible. So it wasn't that easy. At the time the family center opened, it wasn't expected that the growth would be so quick. It was difficult at the beginning to even bring partners in the building. And then all of a sudden there are a lot of partners and a lot of people using the rooms and stuff like that. So the pace of the growth was was not really anticipated at the beginning. So what happened the first few years was more like thinking about populating the building and making the rules as few as possible, like, just to get by kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden you hit this, almost like, you hit a point where you start to think about, do we really want to grow any longer, or we really want to put a stop to the growth and think about sustainability and think about how can we maintain what we have right now. So I think I joined at somewhat that difficult time. So even in small things, it's a challenge to make changes. Forget about policies, even the procedures, making changes in procedures, it's difficult. Policies, we don't have as many, 5 if you can count them. And most of them are like scent-free place and free space and, like that kind of thing. So yeah, it's been a challenge really, even to change the procedure, right? Like for the longest time, for example, our partners were able to stay in the building without any staff support. We used to have 4 partners when we started. So they would run a program without any staff support from Family and Children Services. They can use, come and go. It's a huge building. And it wasn't considered a challenge, but now that we have a larger number of partners and they're very busy and this space is very busy, so we run into this challenge that we close our business hours until 8 p.m. every day, but the programs are still running when the staff leaves the building. And not a very good idea. And we don't really have a policy or procedure in place. This is one challenge that we have identified, but we haven't really decided how we're going to deal with this challenge.
And when you do kind of identify an area that maybe needs a procedure or policy developed around, is it like a specific group of people whose role it is to kind of take that forward? Or, oh no, my internet connection is going unstable. Can people still hear me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, it's happening. The last minute. But yeah, so sort of what does that look like? Like once you've identified something that needs to be done, like what's the approach?
So remember I talked about the change in or from the first thing is almost like growing your roots, populating the building to hitting the the place where you start to think about sustainability. So at the beginning, the foundational years, we had a steering committee, a community steering committee, and our partners were also part of that steering committee. And at that time, that steering committee was responsible for building policies. But then what happened between the transition, not the people, but the transition from the foundation, laying foundation to sustainability, we also introduced a very comprehensive family center review. Family Center is the name of the place. The Family Center review has taken almost a year, more than a year to complete. Now the final report is in the draft format and just needs the final approval. So a lot of things have been on hold. More than anticipated long Family Center review. But once the review is out, there are recommendations for everything in policies. Policy development is definitely one of those areas. But at this time, there is no clear, direction that the policies will be developed by this person or that person or this role or that role or this steering committee or this steering committee. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to mute. I have my admin here. I'll check what's the problem.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so definitely I think that was a kind of a good example of there's the actual development of policy and connecting it to your mission and all the things that we've talked about, but then there's also the need to develop procedures and processes to develop the policies, and that can in itself be a huge learning curve and a learning process, but a way to, I think, engage a lot of different people perhaps at the same time. So it was also good to sort of hear some common themes around maybe it isn't having, a million different policies that should be the priority. There is maybe this need for procedures, be looking at that instead. So it was neat to hear that from a couple of different people as well. So I love that this group likes to share so much. I'm noticing that it's already 2:20 my time, Mountain Time. We were going to move into a process of just allowing people to sort of workshop ideas. So bring up some areas or activities that you're looking to increase your impact around, and what would be some suggestions from this group of different approaches you could take. We don't have time for that today, but I think we can maybe move that into the next call. All that we really have time left now is our commitments, or things that you're going to commit to try to do between now and our next call in January in your spaces or in your organizations. Again, our next call is, we're skipping December, or we were initially going to skip December until I had to move this call into December. But our next regularly scheduled call is at the end of January. And it's in the agenda that I've now lost access to. Okay, here we go. Let me pull it down. Our next call is Wednesday, January 25th, same time, same place. But before we depart, it would be great to do our commitments. So again, one thing that you commit to trying in your space before the next call, and then we can check in about those the next time we meet. So I'll just start from one corner of my screen, and then we can kind of move clockwise. So how about the red pole center?
I'm going to have to think about it, Erin, and I will send you an email of what we'll commit to, just because we've had a number of issues happen over the last 6 months with the fire here, and I'm behind. I have my year end and my audit coming up. So from basically now till the end of January, I'm slammed on my other role. So if I can find a commitment that I can pass on to one of my colleagues and help them with, I'll let you know. But I just, in all fairness, I can't commit to something.
That's fair. Yeah, we can check in through email for sure.
Perfect.
Candid.
in our other group, sometimes committing to finishing an audit is the only commitment.
That's very true. Yeah, committing
Well,
to
I have to finish it, so.
We can commit to that.
Yeah, there you go. That could be my commit. That's usually my reward. I finish audit and then I'm allowed to go on vacation for a week or two, but
yeah.
So there you go. It won't be finished before the 25th. I have to have my year end done and then we start the audit through the last 3 weeks of January. So.
Yeah, and that's a very good clarification point. Like, this group is not meant to sort of add burdensome work to your already really full plate. It's, you know, sometimes committing is, you know, what are you already doing that you need to continue to do that we can maybe share with the group and learn from in terms of what you've been up to over the last month. So totally legitimate. Don't think that you have to come up with a new task to commit to. How about Jody?
Okay, well, I will, Erin, send you those few resources around the room booking protocol, policy and procedure, and our MOU. I'll forward you those resources. But one thing we are discussing here at the Village is what our center's calls to action are regarding the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So as part of our strategic planning, reconciliation is one of our strategic directions. And so we're having discussions around how we're going to implement that and what we can do and commit to here as the Village. So I can report back regarding that in January.
Awesome. That's very, very timely. So it would be great to hear about that. What Arlie?
Well, I think I like this whole idea of the flock gatherings, and I love that term. And that's one thing that we haven't had here with our tenants. So I think I'm going to commit to having a full building tenant gathering because I just deal with everyone individually. So I think having everyone in the room together, I think that's a fantastic thing to start with. So doing that, as well as starting to outline and standardize procedures and policies for our bookings and really looking at that and kind of revamping it all.
Amazing. Awesome. And great to hear how there's shared learning is influencing each other. That's really great to hear.
Oh, yeah.
Purposes of the community of practice. So that's wonderful.
Sorry, Arlie, I'd be happy to share some of this stuff, especially if you're starting. It doesn't always, you know, happen really quickly, but I can give you some, you know, really easy things in a couple of our agendas to start with that, you know, first you get them to come.
Yes.
Food will always do it. We found food was an enticement, and then they'll start to come when they start to see the benefits. But I will email you so we can.
I would love that. That would be amazing. Thank you.
My commitment to help out.
There.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Fazia.
I don't know what kind of commitment I should make at this time. There's not a lot of time between now and then. So I know that we'll be working on the new project funding that we just received, and we'll be really busy with the evaluation that we're doing with Langs, Carolyn, and also putting the infrastructure in for the project, the funding that we have received for that project. So maybe not a lot of time left to do things at the family center in general. But one thing that I would really appreciate if people can share their policies. I don't care how many policies I would have to read in the next, 2 or 3 months. But if there is a way for people to share the policies that they have, it would be a great help, because I know that in the new year, that's going to be a big thing.
Great. For sure. And I'll actually just jump in with my own commitment because it relates is I will take all this information that people are sharing, kind of set up some systems or processes to kind of facilitate that sharing, compile all this information, and be in touch through email. So, but I love the willingness for everyone to share. That's exciting for me. So thank you. There's actually, Brenda has just chimed in through chat. So she says that they will, or she will share their tenant selection process and make sure their audio is fixed. So sounds very good. Thank you. How about Carrie Lynn?
Similar to Fazia, we are quite committed to the evaluation we're in right now, and for those of you who have done these comprehensive evaluations, you'll completely understand we're in the midst of key informant interviews, 2 different sets of surveys and focus groups and other things, but it will come to a good result with the final report by March. So I think our next month is going to be quite busy with that.
Yeah, and it would be great to hear a bit more about kind of that approach to the evaluation, kind of an update about that. We're also, as part of NCN Canada, doing another white paper. We've done a couple so far that we're going to be releasing soon, but one of our last white papers is actually on evaluation and measuring impact, and so might try to connect with you on that piece as well on the side. So maybe we can talk about that when you're in Calgary. And then we've heard from Brenda and Yvette. You're the last one.
Yeah, so earlier this year, we had a consultant come in to meet with our hub partners so that we can look at how to better collaborate and partner with each other. So we did a couple of sessions with the consultant, and we came up with a few suggestions. And for next year, we're hoping to be more intentional about our partnerships. So we're having our meeting in early January. So by the time, by the next time we have this call, I should be able to report back on what are some of the things that we've decided to do in terms of strengthening and making our partnerships better. So yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, look forward to hearing about that. And good luck.
Yeah.
2:30 exactly on the dot. Look at that. Good timing. Thank you for joining us again, Katie, and for taking notes again. We'll be able to share those out. And yeah, it's good to see everyone. Thanks for all the sharing and learning. We'll be in touch through email. And I guess just have great holidays and good luck. It sounds like everyone's got a lot of work coming up over the next little while. So good luck getting through that. I hope you get a break over the holidays for sure. So we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.